Reno along with Andrea Tanteros, Leslie Marshall, Eric Bowling, and Greg Gutfeld. This is The Five. Well, it looks like some people in the media might be threatening Mitt Romney over his faith. What we're about to show you comes in the wake of a proposal by a super PAC to invoke Obama's former pastor, Jeremiah Wright, in a 2012 ad campaign. Now, Romney himself was never involved in the now counseled proposal. In fact, he repudiated the suggestion right away, but some in the mainstream media want to take him down for it anyway.
Do Republicans really want to start talking about religious influence on candidates? Do they really want us to start talking about Mitt Romney, who's part of a religious group that has been one of the most racially segregated in the history of this country? Until the late 1970s, African Americans, people of color, couldn't be ordained.
If the GOP, they want to do that, well, then guess what? You're now putting Mormonism on the table. You're now putting on the table how African Americans were treated by the Mormon religion. I don't think Mitt Romney really wants to have that conversation, considering he was an elder and his dad was an elder.
So, Andrea, isn't it interesting that Romney's faith is able to be in question, but any suggestion of President Obama's past relationship with who he called his mental and spiritual advisor, Jeremiah Wright, is off limits. And kind of curious, since one of those people had actually already brought up Mormonism.
That's right. Curiously, the three people who watched Martin Bashir's show about a month beforehand got to see him go off on a rant about Mormonism, where he said he can either keep lying and potentially win the White House, but bring eternal damnation upon himself, or he can start telling the truth. The question, I guess, is for him. And he was holding up the Book of Mormon. Now, first of all,
you keep doing that, please?
Isn't it annoying?
I found it kind of arousing.
We're going to get fan mail from England telling me I have a terrible accent.
Easy there, killer.
But the point is, he's holding up the Book of Mormon. Can you imagine if someone would hold up the Quran, or someone would do that? But also, he's saying he can either keep lying, insinuating Romney's a liar. We can't say the word lying. We can't ever say that Barack Obama's lying. There's a huge double standard. Mitt Romney came out yesterday and he actually said, I don't want to make Reverend Wright an issue. But still, by saying what Bashir and Roland Martin were saying, do they want to make an issue of X, Y, and Z? They're already talking about it anyway.
Well, there's a big question of whether or not Romney should. And a lot of people, some people on the right would say, McCain was crazy to take that off the table. And then last night, our very own Charles Krauthammer talked about what his opinion is. Let's take a listen.
I think it would be completely legitimate, but I think Romney is wise not to do it. Look, I think there is an appalling double standard here. It's okay for the Washington Post to run a 5,000-word front-page story on a prank that Romney, at the age of 15, committed, and yet it's somehow illegitimate, the low road or whatever, for people to bring up the fact that the adult Obama had a 20-year relationship with a racist, anti-American preacher whom he considered, spoke about, wrote about as his mentor and spiritual advisor. That is a double standard unlike any I've ever seen.
So, Eric, I wanted to go to you because you had a thought about this, which is that the Democrats are looking for any sort of distraction that they can get, and that Romney is smart to just focus on the economy.
Right. Dan, here's what I think the Romney camp should do. Let the super PACs deal with this because it's relevant. I mean, it really outlines President Obama, the man, spent 20 years with this Reverend Wright, who has of questionable character. But what Romney should do, and I built a little scoreboard, Romney should stay on the Obamonomics. They've been an epic fail, almost $16 trillion in debt, $3.8 trillion in spending next year. Dana, our spending's not going up. It's not going down, it's going up. $82 billion for food stamp usage, and this one right here, 22.5 million people are either unemployed or underemployed. So the point is this: when you're playing a baseball game or a football game, a cornerback makes a great play. He blocks.
What's a cornerback?
It's a defender, right? He blocks the football so the other team doesn't score a touchdown.
The guy whose butt everybody
but then hold on. Yes. So then he jumps up, he gives his buddy a high five, and they do a little victory dance. But they don't realize they're still down by 30 points, and it's the fourth quarter. Look at the scoreboard. Obama has a scoreboard, and he's losing on the scoreboard.
That he didn't have before. And let's bring in Leslie. We're glad to have you here today, and replacing Bob. Give us a break from Bob.
Yeah, and thank you, Eric, for not putting the white slate in front of my face. You know, like,
he's learned. He's got that down now. So what was said years ago in a church might not be as relevant now to some people as what is actually President Obama has said, and then the record he has to run on now. So from a Democratic perspective, where do you think the campaign is thinking? What would they rather fight on, Jeremiah Wright or the economy?
Well, I have to tell you, a lot of people are going to say, Leslie, you actually saying this. I agree with Mitt Romney's decision, and let me tell you why. Mitt Romney wants to win the presidency. He doesn't want to win a popularity contest right now. He wants to win the presidency. The people that both the president and Mitt Romney are after, approximately 15%, very small segment swing voters who care about what Eric is talking about, the economy. They don't care about Jeremiah Wright. And honestly, if they did care about Jeremiah Wright, the president wouldn't be in the White House right now. It was already brought up. I do think it's fair to bring up either, but if you're going to open the doorway to religion, which has been open to the president, questioning his Christianity, saying he was a Muslim, etc., then you have to talk about
said that,
religion on Mitt Romney's side.
Obama said that himself. He's talked about how he grew up in Indonesia, so let's not.
The strange thing is about the Jeremiah Wright thing is that no matter how often, Greg, that you see the replays of the sermons that he gave, it's still shocking.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's about religion at all. It's actually about a bribe. That's how a lot of this stuff came up. And the equivalency of Mormonism to Wright is bogus. Mormons don't tell you to hate America. Wright and Bill Ayers did. But I don't care about that. What bothers me is how the media is somehow dictating what is on or what is off the table. I need a guide. So I decided to come up with a guide from the media, from the mass media, of things you can attack Obama on. These are the things you can attack Obama on. First one is caring so much about his family, he's often seen in quieter moments looking lovingly at their photographs. That's an outrage. The other one. His IQ is so high that it must be a burden to constantly be weighed down with sobering thoughts about the way of the world. Monster. Next one. His sense of fairness is so constant, it must be hard for him to root for an opposing team at a sporting event. And lastly, his rock-hard abs, being in such great shape, take constant discipline, which must wear him down at times. See, if the media is telling us, if the Republicans focus on that, we might have a chance.
I'm surprised that you said what's on the table, not what's on the menu. You could have come up with some good ones.
You know, that's offensive, Dana, because you're insinuating he eats a dog.
I just had to get
the abs, you're confusing him with Vladimir Putin.
Are mom jeans on the table? Can we go after him for the mom jeans?
Mom jeans, they're comfortable. I think it's an outrage to go after the mom jeans. And why are you calling them mom? Why don't you call them career woman jeans? It's disgusting.
It's part of the war.
Can I ask Andrea this question?
Okay,
we're on the waistline.
Put your campaign hat back on.
Okay.
Super PACs. So every morning you could wake up on the Republican or Democrat side and see something that a super PAC is proposing or that they've batted around in the brain room or that they're actually going to do. And then you could call on the other campaign to repudiate those comments. So Mitt Romney did that right away on the merits, I think. But when it comes to, for example, Bill Maher, who has a super PAC and is giving $1 million to Obama, when he says something outrageous, the Democrats' excuse for him is that, well, he's a comedian.
Right. The double-edged sword. And I equate super PACs with surrogates and people, like you pointed out, Dana, who are associated with the campaign. To me, it's the same. If I'm the press secretary, I remember we didn't have super PACs back then, but there were people who were associated with the campaign, and when they would say things, which they do, they talk to the media. So let's say it's a surrogate talking about Reverend Wright. It causes major heartburn for the campaign, and I think it would cause major heartburn for Mitt Romney if someone did that. It's going to drown out his message, the message you had, Eric, that's on the board. That's what he wants to talk about. I do think, though, Dana, the left is going to overreach on Mormonism. I think the right overreaches sometimes, but the left does it so meanly, and they're going to keep doing it. And I think that it exposes them. They did it with Palin. They did it with Meg Whitman. They're going to do it with Mormonism. And I think anyone with any religious beliefs in this country, they're going to bristle at this, and it's going to backfire.
I disagree entirely, being on the left, because most of us on the left really don't care what religion our president is, to be honest. And even a lot of Republicans who Mitt Romney already has the support of, it is the extremely conservative Christian evangelical community that already questions Mormonism as being a part of Christianity that he is going to have
Leslie,
to
that 15% that you mentioned, if the left goes too hard negative and really starts to go after Romney on his Mormonism, like Roland Martin and Bashir, I think anyone with any kind of religious beliefs is going to see this as an affront to religion. And
well, let me ask Eric this question about...
Why are we even talking about this? I think it's two bozos who could be confused with Milli Vanilli right now with their credibility.
How dare you insult Milli Vanilli?
Oh, I knew that was
but
they're really nice
and they're the only two who are bringing this up. I don't hear anyone else. I don't hear the left, really the left-leaning media. You hear these two idiots, but no one else really, and certainly not anyone politically left.
But, and also, there's a lot of
Senators
conventional wisdom that says that the far-right evangelicals won't vote for Romney because of that. But there's actually no polling evidence that shows that. But the thing for me on this is that there's very few persuadable people anymore in the country. If you know right now, if you're going to vote for Obama, if you're going to vote for Romney, the 15% of people that might be persuadable, I don't think they're going to be swayed by this either way.
I don't think Jeremiah Wright. I don't think Mormonism. I think it's just going to be.
But it might
November,
increase your
jobs,
intensity. On the Jeremiah Wright side, it might increase intensity and turnout, which is going to be key in any election, I suppose. Directly ahead, Sean Hannity has a great special tonight, and we'll have some sound from President Obama that you have never heard before. You got a sneak peek.
With the wind blowing through my baby's hair, yeah, makes me want to take a back road. Makes me want to take the long way home. Put a little gravel in my travel. Unwind, unravel all night long. Makes me want to grab my honey. Tear down some two-lane country. Who knows? Get lost and get right with my soul. Makes me want to take